As long as you've got a beat in your heart and you've got breath in your lungs, you can use what I'm teaching you here to begin to redesign your lifestyle. So don't think you're stuck with this life that you're going to have to deal with and hate forever. You're not.
Welcome to the Bedros Keuilian Show.
Most people are stuck with the life that they have and they hate it. But what if you can design your dream life and actually live it? What's up, gangsters? Bedros Keuilian here. Welcome to the Bedros Keuilian Show. And I've got an awesome episode teed up for you today. This is about designing the life you want and 3 specific steps to designing your dream life. And before I jump into that, I want to thank everybody on YouTube. YouTube has been growing rapidly for us. 74% of you watching this are not subscribed, so it would mean a lot to me if you're getting any value from this, that you subscribe and either like it or leave a comment. Listen, you don't have to turn on the notification bell like everyone else tells you to. I think notifications are the biggest distractions, but if you subscribe, you're doing 2 things. 1, you are going to get notified whenever you end up going on YouTube. My show will pop up. And number 2, when you subscribe, you tell the algorithms that this is a valuable show that's helping people, and we get to reach more people, change and impact more lives. And of course, those of you listening to this on the podcast show across Spotify and the old iTunes or wherever you're listening on the podcast platforms, thank you so much. I appreciate you all. All right, today's episode, let's dive into this. And the reason I'm diving into this is because I think I got very fortunate early on and I learned some big lessons in terms of lifestyle design. I'm 50 years old. For the most part, I've been living the life I want. And I say for the most part because there is no perfect life. Life is full of death. As many of you know, a year and a half ago, my mom passed away. Life is full of injuries. Life is full of sickness. Life is full of accidents. Life is full of all those things. But we also want those things because we've talked about that in previous episodes where all of those challenges, adversities, and setbacks that you experience in life, that is the resistance against your emotional and mental muscles, right? That's how we build emotional resiliency and mental toughness. However, building a life that you want, like designing your life, not a lot of people do that. And I had the good fortune to accidentally stumble into a life design formula. And I got to tell you this by giving you a story from when I was younger. So I'm 50 years old now, but when I was 19, 20 years old, I had 2 lessons. The first lesson actually was when I was 16 years old. The second lesson was when I was around 19 or 20 years old. So that first lesson was my dad's tailor shop. Now, many of you know we're immigrants to this country. I was 6 years old when we came to the United States. And my mom and dad worked their butt off. And after about 5 years being in the United States, they were able to open up a tiny little tailor shop in Anaheim, California, right? My dad was a tailor by trade, and they opened up a tiny little tailor shop in Anaheim, California. And that did well for my dad. He worked 6 days a week, 12 to 13 hours a day. He took Sundays off, and then it was rinse and repeat. And he did that for like 30 years, right? And, I'm his son, and I've got an older brother, older sister. Like all old school parents do, they kind of teach you the trade, they teach you the craft. So believe it or not, I know how to sew, I know how to hem pants, I know how to sew on a button, I know how to do all those things. However, as much as I enjoyed doing it for myself when I was a kid growing up and using my dad's tailor shop to kind of customize my clothes, I never really wanted to become a tailor. Because when my dad, I was around 16 years old, he said, hey, look, as I get closer to retiring down the line, this is an opportunity for you to take over this business. And it's a established tailor shop. I've got established customers, and it's something that you can make a good living for you. But having grown up in his tailor shop, right, I realized I don't want to trade my time for dollars. That's the first lesson I got, is the only time my dad makes money is when he's working, when he's behind that sewing machine, right? The other thing I realized is I don't want to be tied to a business, a job, a career that didn't really give me any sense of fulfillment or meaning or accomplishment, right? Maybe it did for my dad. Maybe he liked the art of it. In fact, I know he did because he took so much pride. He's 91 years old now, and we talk about this still. My dad took so much pride when someone got, let's say, like a cigarette burn on their pants, right? Especially if it's like pinstripe pants, dress pants. And if you like a cigarette ash, especially back then when people smoked cigarettes more, a little piece of cigarette ash from the cigarette would fall on their lap. They get a little cigarette burn on their pants. They bring their pinstripe pants into my dad to get fixed, and he would cut out a perfect little square. Then he would go into the hem underneath the pants where it's hemmed up, and he'd cut out another perfect square, and then he'd glue that in there so perfectly, lining up all the fibers on the cloth and all the lines of the pinstripe, and you would never be able to tell unless you turned the pants inside out that there was a patch job done. And he would, resurrect these high-end, expensive pants. So my dad certainly saw the art of it, the meaning of it. He probably was in flow state as a tailor. And quite honestly, we're new to the country, and he was in a position where we had to earn money, right? That's why he brought us to the country, so that we can do bigger and better things. So while he was disappointed when I said, hey, being a tailor is not for me, I don't want to trade time for dollars, and I just don't get any excitement out of being a tailor, the other thing that I learned was, remember, he said, hey, you like cars. Why don't you go work with cars? And I was like, maybe that's a good idea. So I went to vocational school, and I got my education as a smog technician, right? To be able to check the smog levels of your exhaust pipe from your car. And thankfully, my dad was like, hey, you've got an uncle who works at a mechanic shop, and there at that mechanic shop, there's a smog technician. And maybe your uncle can take you a few times for you to get experience from that smog technician, so that you know what you're doing when you get out of this vocational school and you go find yourself a job in a mechanic shop. Well, thank God that my uncle took me, and thank God my dad recommended that, because there in that smog station of the mechanic shop, so as you guys can imagine, the mechanic shop has like 5 or 6 bays, right? One of the bays was dedicated to the smog technician, and he's just smogging cars all day long. And while he was the cleanest of all the mechanics, in other words, he wasn't as greasy, the work he did was not as grunt type, grungy work, grimy work, he still was under the hood a lot, and it was just an environment. After spending a week there, observing, watching, I was like, man, I don't think I want to do this. And I bounced. And so for me, I had a very big epiphany early on that I need to figure out what it is I want to do, because now I was exposed to 2 things, a tailor shop and a smog technician. And I realized these are the things I don't want to do as my career, as my vocation, but I still hadn't figured out what I wanted to do. Now, a few years earlier, I had started working out as a personal trainer, or working out, and then became a certified personal trainer, but really just thought that was something that would bridge the gap between my career. When I realized later that this could be a career, I was super excited, because personal training for me, that created some level of meaning, right? And when you have a level of meaning or fulfillment from the work you do, the money is almost a predisposed fact. It's going to happen. I don't know why it is, but it just is. When you have a sense of fulfillment and meaning from the work that you do, the money just comes. Because if you are getting some level of purpose, significance, fulfillment, meaning from your work, you're probably doing it at a very high caliber. That means you're probably one of the best at it. And if you're one of the best, then you're going to be known in that niche, in that space, and therefore you're going to be able to charge more. There's going to be a demand for your services, and you will make the money that you require to live and experience life. But I also knew I didn't want to trade time for dollars. And remember, personal training, one-on-one personal training, was a time for dollar exchange, right? And so that's where my mentor, Jim Franco, who was one of my 4 personal training clients at the top, kind of talked me into opening up my own personal training studio. And I realized, okay, I get to do personal training. I can train a handful of clients if I want, but mainly I'm going to run my gym. At the time, it was called Premier Results, and I'll have 10 to 12 other personal trainers working for me, and they're going to be working, trading time for dollars, and I'm going to do a revenue share with them. They'll get a percentage of the money from the clients they train, and then I get the rest. And if I've got 10, 12, 13, 15 trainers doing this for me, then I've got, multiple income streams, and I'm no longer trading time for dollars. My job really is to focus on the growth, and growth comes from marketing and sales, right? Which we've done a lot of episodes here on the show about marketing and sales. By the way, these are the new stainless steel Trulean tumblers. And they have this really awesome little doohickey in it Those of you on the podcast who are just listening, you're not seeing it. But it's a stainless steel tumbler. We got rid of all the plastic shaker cups. And these Trulean tumblers are awesome. You can mix your wellness shots in there, your protein shakes in it. It's got a little doohickey in there that'll help break up like the protein powder and all that stuff, just like a shaker cup would. And what's really cool about it is there is no plastic gunk that your body is absorbing, right? Stainless steel, wash it out, turn it upside down, dries out, you're good to go. Anyways, I digress. So for me, it was a really important thing to understand that I can have many personal trainers working for me. And if these personal trainers are working for me and they are making me money and they're making themselves money, this becomes something scalable. So the very first time I thought about any kind of design of a lifestyle, to me, was money. And I think for most of us, we could all agree that the most thought we put into anything, unfortunately, is money. Like where our source of income and living is going to be, which also makes sense because you don't want to live under a bridge, eating, old throwaway food from the garbage can, wearing some other people's hand-me-down clothes. Like that makes sense. I get it. We all need money. However, if we put as much thought into our source of income, like we do on our source of income, into the relationship that we want, the health that we want, the people that we want to surround ourselves with, the experiences that we want to have, the family that we want to grow and nurture. If we put as much planning and thought and design into those areas, that then, my friend, becomes lifestyle by design. So we create a vocation by design, most of us, right? Most of us, we have some idea. Whether even if you go to college, you're like, I'm going to choose this as my major, right? I'm going to major in this, and hopefully you end up working in that field. I know something like 82% of people who get a bachelor's degree end up working in a different industry than their bachelor's degree is for, but that's a topic for another day. Most of us have an idea of what we want to do in terms of making money, but we don't do any other planning for lifestyle. And so instead of lifestyle by design, it becomes a lifestyle by drifting, a lifestyle by circumstance. You just kind of stumble into a life. And then you look back and you're like, oh man, I'm married to someone I don't like. My kids don't recognize me and I don't feel connected to my kids. I always feel like I'm stressed, overwhelmed, and chasing the bills because I didn't factor in how much my kids would cost and spouse would cost and a house would cost and cost of living and all these things. And so all of a sudden you're stuck in what we call the rat race, right? And just so you understand and you have hope, if you're like, Bedros, you're talking to me, but I'm in my 40s, I'm in my 50s, maybe I'm in my 60s. You could still use what I'm about to teach you, the 3 steps right here for lifestyle design, to begin to change your life today. As long as you've got a beat in your heart and you've got breath in your lungs, you can use what I'm teaching you here to begin to redesign your lifestyle. So don't think you're stuck with this life that you're going to have to deal with and hate forever. You're not. But you do have to understand that the first thing we think about is money, right? And so for me, I was like, all right, I knew my gyms were a great idea. So I scaled Premier Results to multiple locations, 5 locations, ultimately ended up selling them. And then that later became the impetus for Fit Body Bootcamp. When the economy crashed in 2008 with the housing market crash, I came up with the idea of Fit Body Bootcamp about a year and a half later because I knew one-on-one personal training was dead. And so I took the whole idea of taking the one-on-one personal training model and taking that outdoor boot camp model and bringing it indoors, right? And so now we're doing boot camp group training, 1 trainer, multiple clients. If we have many session times or class times throughout the day, now we can create a business model where the coaches, the trainers on the floor who are training the 20, 30, 40, 50 clients at a time, throughout the 5 to 6 sessions a day, they are making the money for the business, right? And then as an owner, I get to operate my boot camp, right? And so as we scaled that and turned it into a franchise, I was like, all right, well, what do I want my franchisees to experience? If my franchisees are like me, they don't want to trade time for dollars. They want to do something that's meaningful. So for me, anything attached to some kind of coaching, mindset, health, fitness, nutrition, personal development, growth, those are all things that give me a sense of great meaning and purpose and significance. And I said, well, if I could find other people like that, I can take this indoor bootcamp model that I've developed for myself and I could franchise it, right? And so we franchised Fit Body Bootcamp, and now we have Fit Body Bootcamp owners all over the United States and Canada, and we have many people that are multi-location owners. So they're managing their locations, and then their coaches are actually running the workouts and making the money for them. But again, that is the whole idea of like, I designed a business. Like I know how to design businesses. And And thank God I had that experience with the smog tech place and my dad's tailor shop to know what I didn't want in terms of making money. So for me, I was like, all right, I want to work in some kind of positive environment that creates change for people, where I'm not trading time for dollars, where I can have systems and processes in place. That's how Premier Results was made. And then I built and sold it because it was one-on-one personal training, so the profit margins were low. I figured, okay, after the pandemic, or not the pandemic, after the housing market crash in 2008, if I could take that model of one-on-one personal training, bring it indoors into group personal training, one coach, multiple clients, I can now increase the profit margins, make it more affordable for everyone, and have multiple locations of Fit Body Bootcamp. And that's how Fit Body Bootcamp grew, right? And so with that in mind, it was a very intentional design of Fit Body Bootcamp as a business model. And so I realized during that point that I was very intentional in designing my life as well. I designed my life exactly like I wanted to design my business, right? In terms of how involved I wanted to be, how automated I wanted it to be, how many income streams I have. And so for me, I grew up without my mom in the house. Because she was working like everybody else in the family, making money because we're foreigners to this country. And so I was a latchkey kid. And I knew early on that I didn't want my kids to see the inside of a daycare. I didn't want them to grow up with a babysitter. I wanted mom to be there. So, as I got married, like that was a non-negotiable for me, right? That was a very specific lifestyle by design. And so, well, if that's the case, then you have to tell yourself, well, that means I got to make the kind of money where my spouse could stay home and raise the kids. And oh, by the way, this is the core values that I want my kids raised with. Right? And oh, by the way, these are the experiences that I want to have with my family. And oh, by the way, this is the quality of health that I'm looking for so that I could have longevity with my family. And oh, by the way, here's the faith that we are going to subscribe to, believe in a higher power, a belief system that gives us a greater sense of hope for the future, right? Like all of those were very intentional. Like the values that we have, the amount of money that we make to give us the access and experiences, where we wanted to live, how all of that unfolds. Hey guys, quick interruption to the Bedros Keuilian Show. I took some time to go to the local juice stores here in town, and I bought all these different ginger, turmeric, and wellness shots. Now, they range anywhere from $3.69 all the way to $4.05. And to be honest with you, they all suck. Why? Because they do not have anywhere near the wonderful ingredients of the Trulean Wellness Shot. First of all, to build your immune system and keep your immune system strong, Trulean Wellness Shot is packed with vitamin C, vitamin D, and zinc. And also to help you fight off inflammation, it is packed with turmeric, ginger, and black pepper. And to keep you hydrated, Trulean Wellness Shots have sodium, potassium, and magnesium. This is the ultimate morning supplement. Just take one packet, pour it in 4 ounces of water, and shoot it, and you're good to go. Best of all, $1.69 per packet instead of twice the price of those other inferior ones. I want you to get 50% off your first 30-day supply. So go to Trulean.com, use my name, Bedros, and you can get 50% off plus free shipping, a 30-day money-back guarantee, and $1 gets donated to Shriners Children's Hospital. Best of all, if you like the Trulean Wellness Shots, and I know you will, like thousands of other people who are part of the Trulean tribe, every month we'll send you a new supply at 20% off, free shipping. So go to Trulean.com, use my name, Bedros, and get your 50% discount code before it goes away. Back to the show. And so understand that if you do not design a life specifically to your desired standards, then you will end up drifting into a life that either other people have imagined for you, or you'll just kind of bump into an opportunity and, okay, great, I'll take that job. And then you'll bump into some person and you'll go, okay, well, you're good enough to get married to. And then you'll bump your uglies, and then you have a couple of kids, and then those kids just grow up in the household, but there's really no structure, core values, character built and developed. There is no, like I made sure Andrew and Chloe, when they were puppies, like I'm like, hey, we're not doing the sideways hug like your friends do at school. We're doing the belly to belly hug. Like I want belly button to plug in. Like I knew what I wanted. I wanted to say, I love you to my kids, right? Because it was something that I never heard from my parents. And that's fine. That's a different generation, but I knew what I wanted and needed and what I wanted to instill in them. And so I share that with you because if you can be that intentional about your life, even now, Even now, let's say I'm talking to now someone who's in their 40s or maybe even 50s, and you've got kids who are in their early 20s or maybe even early 30s, and you're like, man, but I lost my chance with my kids to create that bond and have those experiences. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You can begin to have the experiences that you want with your kids. Now, you might have to have that with their significant other, or if they have a family, with their family. You might have to make some apologies first, and you might have to cross a chasm and build a bridge because of your absence. And your absence could have been physical. Your absence could have been emotional. Maybe you were so stressed trying to make money. Time went by and they grew up and they just flew the coop, and you never really realized that you missed out on so much. And they felt that they were maybe neglected while you were like, man, I was stressed trying to keep food in your stomachs and a roof over your head. You got to have those conversations, right? That's part of the lifestyle by design, right? We have to mend bridges before we can actually have experiences with the people that we want. So, going back to all this, then what does all this mean? Well, if we can design things the way we want, we have to be able to first have a process for it. And whenever I'm working with my coaching clients, I always tell them, like, I go, what does a win look like? When you walk out of this half-day meeting with me today, what does a win look like from today? They go, oh, well, it looks like I have a successful business. I go, what does success look like? How much time are you working? How much money are you making per week, per month, per year? How many employees do you think you'll have at that point? And when do we want this by? I want specificity, because if we have a desired outcome with a date attached, now we can design the business that they want. In the more recent years, in the last 10 years, I also started doing the lifestyle for them as well. I was like, hey, I know you hired me as your business coach to scale your business, but what typically happens is you get so caught up in your business that you end up having this ideal business, but you don't know how to have the ideal life. You don't know what that looks like. And while you're trying to figure it out haphazardly, time goes by and you miss out on opportunities and experiences with family, time that you can't get back. So before you leave your half day, since we designed your business, why don't we also design what your ideal life looks like from this day forward, right? And one person that comes to mind is Tony Stephan. He was a registered dietitian, started coaching with me. He's on his 4th or 5th year now coaching with me. And he was like, well, look, I want to do real estate investment. My wife is a school teacher right now, and I want her to leave the teaching and be a stay-at-home mom because, we're going to have kids in the future, and I want my wife to raise my kids. I'm like, cool, man, that's awesome. And so here's how much you're going to need to make. And he says, we live in Michigan, and it's very cold and snowy there in the winter. So since I come out here and coach with you in Southern California, Bedros, I like the idea of maybe renting a place in Newport Beach for 2 to 3 months, and in the winter times where it's sunny and I don't have to be in cold Detroit. So all that was by design. And I said, well, great. By the way, do you want to travel first class? Do you want to travel private jet when you're doing that once a year, coming out for, 3 months to Southern California? And we figured that out. And he says, I think I'd like to have, a reliable car, but also have some kind of a really cool sports car. He ended up buying a really beautiful Lamborghini Huracan Performante. I think that's how you say it. But all of that was by design and expectations, right? And now, like the last 3 years, they come out every winter for 3 months in Newport Beach. We build their half-day coaching day around that. And I share this with you because they're able to bring their dogs out, because they will fly private or they'll fly first class and they'll just put their dogs right up front with them. But the beautiful thing about this is that it was an intentional design of not just their business, but of their life, right? And the experiences that they want to stack up. Like, I just get excited when I think about how my kids, before they ever turned 15, now Andrew's 19 years old, Chloe's 17. By the time they were 15, they had seen like 10 or 11 other countries, had heard many different languages, dialects, and accents, had eaten foods from many different parts of the world, and they were far more worldly at 15 years old than I was in my 30s, right? Because I was having those experiences with them in my 30s and early 40s. And I share that with you because I got to redesign my life and say, all right, if I can go back as a kid, I would have these experiences. Well, I can't, but it's not too late for me to have these experiences now. So I need to make a lot of money to be able to fly the way we want to fly and stay the way in the places that we want to stay, 5-star resorts and hotels and whatever. However, I also need the time freedom. So I need to build a team that knows how to lead and understands my vision. So with all that said, how do we build a lifestyle that is exactly by design so that we can live it, knowing that we've got maybe, what do they say, 78 years on average, but if you maybe eat right and train right and you keep a positive mental attitude, you get your sleep, you get your recovery, maybe you live to 95, 100 years old, right? How do we get the most out of that life where we got the most juice out of the squeeze? I'm going to break down the 3 steps for you right here. So let's get to it. All right. Step number 1 is vision. You've got to be able to cast a vision that actually has a outcome and a date attached to it, right? And this is something you're going to write. We do this in business all the time. In fact, when you use EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System, I've talked to you guys about the book Traction. They talked about EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. In that whole hierarchy of the accountability chart, the head honcho is usually the visionary. They have a vision of what the business is going to look like. Well, you, or maybe you and your spouse, need to be the visionary of your lives together, right? And if you're single, you need to be the visionary of your life. And that means you have to very clearly, like 200 to 300 words, write down exactly what your life looks like in these categories. In your faith, with family, in your fitness, by the way, fitness, both physical and mental fitness, right? There is no such thing. You can't be physically tough and think somehow that's going to translate to emotional toughness. I know many jacked dudes who are emotionally weak and fragile and have massive egos and get shattered easily, right? So your 4 categories are your faith, your family, as in the experiences that you want, the core values you want them to have, how much you want to see your kids and spouse, and the things you want to do and the memories you want to build, your fitness in terms of your health and how you look and how strong you are, and your mental and emotional fitness, right? That's important. And of course, your finances. Those are your 4 categories: faith, family, fitness, and finances. And as we say in the project, when you have your faith, family, fitness, and finances squared away, you have the 5th and final thing, which is your fulfillment, meaning. And so study after study shows that we're not necessarily after making money. We want, obviously, money to pay for our lifestyle, to give us the quality of life that we want. But beyond that, what we want even more is meaning. We want our life to mean something, right? If you want your life to mean something, then you have to be very intentional with the work that you choose and with the family that you establish, the spouse that you get, the people that you surround yourself with. So all of that goes into your vision statement. And your vision statement is 200 to 300 words of, this is the type of life that I want, like square footage of house, where that house might be located in the country, what your work schedule looks like for the day, for the week, what your fitness and nutrition program look like. What do you do with your spouse on a daily or weekly basis? What do you instill in your kids, right? What are the experiences that you want to have in what standard? Because let me tell you, you can go to Bali by connecting to 4 different flights and going in the off season and staying way in the ghettos of Bali, or you can go to Bali during the best season and fly private or first class and stay in the most awesome of resorts. Like 2 different people, both Bali experiences, but 2 very different experiences. And you have to be very clear in how you want that experience to look and feel so that you can attach a financial goal to it, right? Make no mistake about it. Money is going to produce this vision. Money is what unfolds this vision, but you need a clear 200 to 300 word statement of what you want and then when you want it, right? Craig Ballantyne, my good friend who wrote the Perfect Day Formula, he was like, hey, by this age, I want a wife who stay at home. I want 3 kids. I want a dog. I want to live in this part of Vancouver, Canada. This is the type of business that I want. These are the life experiences I want to have. This is the type of freedom that I want. And he designed that. And then I saw it unfold over 10 years with my own eyes. And I've done that myself. I do that with coaching clients. And so what we're describing, your vision is very important. What you want and when you want it by, very clearly in those 4 categories: faith, family, fitness, and finance. The next step is, step 2, are your habits. What are the habits associated with this vision, right? So if you're like, well, I'm going to be lean and jacked and I'm going to maintain 11% body fat. Let's say you're a dude and you want to maintain 11% body fat, 12% body fat year round, right? Cool. What are the habits of that guy? Maybe he's waking up early and doing fasted cardio. Maybe he's meal prepping or makes enough money to have a chef come once a week and meal prep. Maybe he's got a coach or a trainer, or he's developed and acquired the knowledge and skills to train himself and to work out. And he's created the time freedom to be able to do that, right? So your habits have to align with the goals and the vision. If your habits do not align with the goals and the vision, then you are a hypocrite. You're a liar. You're never going to achieve this vision with those habits. The person who says, I want a $50 million business, but I want to sleep in till 9 a.m. in the morning, that ain't going to happen. If you're going to build a $50 million a year business, you're not sleeping in till 9 a.m. in the morning. You're just not. You know, there might be an outlier out there who does that, but it ain't going to be you. It ain't going to be me. It ain't going to be most of us, right? And so your habits have to align with the goals. And that means going to the next thing, number 3, what skills, what traits, what network do you have to develop to be able to do these things, right? Like network could mean, what are the people that you need to hire so that you could take stuff off your plate, put it on their plate, so you can open up time freedom for yourself to get your morning workouts in, to be able to meal prep, to be able to spend time with your kids or your spouse, to be able to do jujitsu at night, right? So you're working out in the morning, you're doing jujitsu at night, to be able to show your family this experience. Like if I was attached to my businesses, then I couldn't travel and do all these speaking gigs. I get so much value from speaking on stage. It really fulfills me. And so I had to create leaders across all my businesses and brands who can understand the vision and work furiously to bring that vision to fruition so that they can get paid well as leaders, while I have the time freedom to be able to travel and use speaking as not only a marketing tool for lead generation, but also a way of having a sense of meaning and fulfillment. Pouring into others really makes me happy, right? This is why I do this podcast, this YouTube show for free. It's because I get value from pouring into you. And of course, we sell the Trulean Wellness Shot on there because the team here behind the cameras and all this stuff has to get paid, and the production ain't cheap. And so, of course, I sell my products and services on my show because I believe in my products and services. That's part of the vision that I did. When I said, what is the vision for the Bedros Keuilian Show? It was that we're not going to have any sponsors who are going to pay me to say things about a product or service that I don't believe in. I'd rather promote my own product or service. I want to promote Fuel Hunt because I wear it. I believe in the brand. I love the guys, Joey and Drew, that started it. And I took equity in the company because I believe in it so much. It's US made and I wear it with pride. Trulean supplements, we made it because I wanted my kids to be able to have supplements that are clean, that don't have any hormones and all this shit. Like everything was intentional and by design, guys. That's the point I'm trying to make here. And so sometimes if you don't, like I didn't have the skills on a supplement company. I knew all about fitness franchising. I made Fit Body Bootcamp and it's growing and it's awesome. By the way, if you want to be a Fit Body Bootcamp owner, just look up fitbodybootcamp.com and click on franchising. Maybe you want to open 2, 3, 4 Fit Body locations. But I share this with you because it's very, very important to understand that if you don't have the skills, you can acquire the skills, or you can find and acquire the people that have the skills. That's why I said network. So what are the skills, traits, and networks? Traits mean the soft skills, right? A trait might be a trait of discipline, a trait of compassion, a trait of kindness. Like what are the traits that you have to develop? And what are the skills that you need to bring the vision to life because of the daily habitual actions that you take? So step 1, cast a very clear vision and attach a deadline and due dates to them. Step 2, your habits have to be congruent to that vision and the desired outcome. Your everyday habits, every minute you're making decisions, you have to be able to make those decisions that are moving you closer to your desired outcome and not taking you away. Most people say, I want this outcome, but then they're screen sucking. I want this outcome, but then they're all up on OnlyFans. I want this outcome, but then they're smoking weed and drinking so much that they are distracted and they're falling asleep and they're foggy headed. They can't think straight. I want this outcome. I want to be healthy and go skydiving with my kids. But you weigh a fucking metric ton. And therefore, unless we're using like fucking cables off of a bridge, we're not going to be able to parachute you down off of an airplane. What are we going to use, a fucking military cargo plane to drop you out? Right? Like if you want to go parachuting, you have to weigh a certain weight or less. And that means you have to be able to take care of your health and hygiene. You have to be an example to your kids. I want my kids to be healthy. I want my kids to be go-getters. Okay, are you sloppy and lazy and stuck in a funk? What are you actively doing to get out of this state, right? Like, so the daily habits are super important. And once you have that, you have to develop the skills, the traits, and the network. And here's the last and final thing, which is part of number 3. What are the vices, the things, and the people that you need to eliminate? So it's not just what are the skills, traits, and network that you need to get or develop, but what are the things that you need to eliminate out of your life? And that is a bold move. And if you want a life by design that is specific and intentional, that is going to be something that when you're on your deathbed, late into your years, you're like, holy fuck, man, I lived a life, the experiences, and I'm surrounded by the people that I love. And when I die, they're going to talk about all the fun shit we did and the memories that we had and the life lessons that I left behind because you were very intentional with your life, not leaving them with debt and going, good riddance, dad is gone. He was stressing us out and he was a fucking wet blanket, always depressed, always chasing money, always trying to pay his bills, could never manage anything. You don't want your kids to say that about you. And if that's the case, then you've got to design this life. And so be willing to eliminate the vices, the things, the people, the habits that are stopping you from getting to the desired outcome. And if you can do that, you will have your dream life at any age. It will take time, it will take effort, and there will be many pivots that will have to happen throughout the journey, but that is the beauty of life. Guys, I hope I get to see you all on May 31st at the Grove Theater in Anaheim, California for BK Live. We're getting together 670 people for one day where I'm going to pour into you and teach you everything about making money, investing money, creating wealth and generational wealth, and making sure that you have the life and the freedom and the experiences that you have, because money will get you there. The meaning, fulfillment, significance that you want, and of course the self-development that you need to keep it all, right? Without self-development and self-mastery, we're never going to be able to keep the money and the meaning that we want. So the link to BK Live is in the description, and I'll make sure to leave it in the first comment here on YouTube. And of course, those of you on the podcast, just go to bedroskeuilian.com and you could register for BK Live taking place May 31st. And I've got a beautiful, awesome lineup of speakers who are going to be coming out there pouring into you as well. All things money, meaning, and self-mastery. But until then, remember this, that average is the enemy, that success is your responsibility, and change can take place in an instant if you are willing to flip the switch. I'll see you next time.